He thought an old man would be an easy target, but he didn't know the veteran's son was about to arrive, and with him, a storm no biker gang could ever forget. The afternoon sun hung lazily in the sky as Mr. Henry, an 85-year-old black veteran, shuffled down the quiet street of his small hometown. He carried a simple grocery bag in one hand, his cane in the other, moving slowly but steadily, the way he had for years. Every wrinkle on his face told a story of sacrifice, of long nights in the barracks, of battles fought for freedom, and of years spent building a peaceful life after war. But peace, it seemed, could be shattered in a single instant. The low growl of a motorcycle broke the calm. A biker, loud and reckless, swerved dangerously close to the sidewalk, forcing Henry to step aside. Instead of moving on, the biker stopped, his engine rumbling like a threat. With a sneer, he swung his leg off the bike and swaggered toward the old man. His eyes were filled with arrogance, the kind that came from believing no one would dare stand up to him. Without warning, he shoved Henry hard against the wall, the bag of groceries spilling across the ground. Then, in a moment that stunned everyone watching, he punched the frail veteran square in the face. Henry stumbled and fell, his cane clattering. Across the pavement, blood trickling from the corner of his lip. Shock rippled through the small crowd that had gathered. Some wanted to help, but fear froze them in place. The biker laughed cruelly, towering over the fallen veteran, mocking his age, mocking his weakness. Henry tried to push himself up, but his body shook from the blow. Still, there was no defeat in his eyes, only quiet pain, and a strength that refused to vanish, even in the face of such humiliation. Lying on the cold pavement, Henry's hands trembled as he reached for his pocket. His vision blurred, but his spirit pushed him to act. The biker stood a few feet away, pacing in circles, his laughter echoing like an insult in the quiet street. People whispered among themselves, some recording on their phones, but no one stepped forward. Henry finally pulled out his old phone, his fingers shaking as he pressed a single number one he had memorized by heart. Within seconds, the call connected. "Dad," Marcus's voice came through, steady and strong. Henry swallowed hard, his voice weak but unbroken. "Son, I've been attacked." On the other end, silence fell for a moment before Marcus's breathing grew heavier. Marcus was no ordinary man. He was a decorated Special Forces officer, trained for the most dangerous missions, the kind of soldier who never left a comrade behind. But this was different. This wasn't just another soldier in need. This was his father. Anger surged through him like fire in his veins, but discipline kept his mind sharp. "Stay where you are, Dad," Marcus said firmly. "I'm coming." At that moment, Marcus was already with his small strike team, just back from a mission, their gear still loaded and their adrenaline still high. Without hesitation, he barked the order, and the team moved. Tires screeched as their armored SUV roared down the road, every second pounding against Marcus's chest like a drum. His mind replayed the image of his father, frail in age but never weak in spirit, and the thought of someone daring to lay a hand on him felt unforgivable. For Marcus, this wasn't just about protecting his father. It was about defending honor, blood, and a legacy that no stranger had the right to tarnish. The rumble of engines filled the quiet street, but this time it wasn't a lone biker. The sound grew louder, heavier, like thunder rolling closer. Heads turned as a black armored SUV screeched to a stop at the curb. The doors swung open, and Marcus stepped out, his tall frame radiating authority, his military uniform still bearing the dust of a recent mission. His eyes, dark and sharp, locked instantly on the sight of his father struggling to stand. Behind him, his strike team fanned out with precision, their presence like an invisible wall of strength that silenced the crowd. The biker's smirk faltered, though he tried to mask his unease with arrogance. "What's this? An army parade?" he scoffed, but his voice cracked ever so slightly. Marcus ignored him at first, striding toward Henry with controlled urgency. He knelt beside his father, gently helping him to his feet, brushing the dirt from his jacket as if restoring his dignity. Then, he leaned down and kissed his father's forehead, a silent vow that justice was about to be delivered. Slowly, Marcus turned, his face hardening like stone as he fixed his gaze on the biker. The street fell into absolute silence. The only sound the faint hum of the SUV's idling engine. Marcus's voice was calm, almost quiet, but it cut through the air like a blade. "You just made the worst mistake of your life." The biker shifted nervously, his bravado slipping as he looked around. Realizing the soldiers weren't there for show, they were ready, every muscle taut, every eye locked on him. The air grew heavier with tension. The crowd, once frozen in fear, now leaned forward, sensing that the tide had turned. Justice had arrived, and it stood in the form of a son protecting his father. The biker's smirk was gone, replaced by a twitch of fear he could no longer hide. The soldiers moved in closer, forming a half-circle that boxed him in. Their boots pressed heavy against the pavement, their eyes sharp, their silence louder than any threat. Marcus stood tall at the center, his father steady at his side now, leaning on his cane but holding his head high. The crowd watched with breathless anticipation, sensing the moment had shifted completely. Marcus took one step forward, His gaze locked on the man who had dared to strike his father. "Kneel," he ordered, his voice low but commanding. The biker laughed nervously, trying to save face, but the weight of the soldier's presence crushed his arrogance. His knees buckled, and slowly he sank to the ground. Murmurs spread through the crowd, phones raised high to capture the scene. Marcus's words cut deeper than any punch. "This man, you humiliated, fought for the freedom you live under. He bled for a nation that gave you the chance to ride that bike, breathe this air, and walk these streets, and you thought he was weak. He is stronger than you will ever be." The biker's face flushed with shame, sweat dripping as he stammered an apology. The soldiers didn't touch him. They didn't need to. The sight of his humiliation was punishment enough. Police arrived, summoned by witnesses, and quickly took the biker into custody. The crowd erupted into applause, not for the fall of the bully, but for the rise of a son who honored his father. Henry stood taller than before, his eyes glistening with pride. For him, this day wasn't about pennant, it was about legacy. And, for Marcus, it was proof that heroes may grow old, but they are never left unprotected. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts. *, subscribe to Deep Wounds for more powerful and emotional stories that stay with you forever.